This is our past, gentlemen. This is where we have been. This is how we got here. This is who we are today.
You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
It's not about that scoreboard out there. It's not about winning. It's about you and your relationship to yourself and your family and your friends.
They're strong, fast, and undefeated. So far. But I want you to remember where God has brought us. I want you to remember how hard you've worked. We weren't supposed to have a winning season, but we do. We weren't supposed to advance through the playoffs, but we did. We're not supposed to be here, but we are. So if there's anything in you that says this is a losing effort, throw it out. Because as I stand here, I believe that as long as we honor God, nothing is impossible.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. This is a special new broadcast from Diggin, Deeper Ministries. While we are a Christian ministry, we are also sports fans who enjoy the competition of many leagues, including the National Football League. We will never forget our roots as a Christian ministry, but that does not mean we cannot explore other interests as well. God never said to avoid other interests. He is clear, however, that these interests must never take priority over Him. With that in mind, I am your host, Brian Parsons, for Diggin, Deeper into the NFL. On today's program, we'll go diggin' deeper into Week 3 of the 2025 NFL season, which kicked off in Buffalo, New York on September 18th, featuring the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills used a balanced offensive attack to earn a 31-21 victory over the Miami Dolphins in the Week 3 Thursday Night Football matchup. Bills quarterback Josh Allen was sharp, completing 22 of 28 passes for 213 yards and 3 touchdowns. Running back James Cook added 108 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown to keep the Dolphins' defense on its heels. Miami's Tua Tagovailoa finished 22 of 34 for 146 yards, throwing 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, but he was not sacked. Despite solid passing, the Dolphins could not overcome Buffalo's edge in possession. The Bills controlled the ball for 31 minutes and 47 seconds, while Miami held it for 28 minutes and 13 seconds, giving Buffalo just enough time to maintain their lead. With this win, Buffalo improves to 3-0 on the season, while Miami falls to 0-2. While this is an early season matchup, this game could be pivotal for playoff positioning. Buffalo's win strengthens their lead in the division. While Miami has not had the strongest start to the season, and the last few seasons have not gone according to plan, the Dolphins tend to play the Bills tough, so this game was important. Buffalo capitalized on critical third-down conversions and sustained drives to pull ahead, and while Miami made big plays, but couldn't fully overcome Buffalo's efficiency in scoring and clock management, the Bills outgained the Dolphins 360 to 276 total yards. The score tightened at moments, but Buffalo maintained control for most of the game. Miami never led, and while they made some scoring drives to cut the deficit, the Bills' offense consistently responded with touchdowns, keeping a comfortable margin. While Miami narrowed the gap at points, Buffalo controlled the game, and the outcome was never seriously threatened. The Sunday schedule would kick off on September 21st. Let's go to Carolina, where the Atlanta Falcons faced off against the Carolina Panthers at Bank of America Stadium. Coming into the game, the Falcons were heavy favorites, but on this day, Carolina dominated in all 3 phases: offense, defense, and special teams. Bryce Young orchestrated a mistake-free attack, the defense scored a pick 6, and Ryan Fitzgerald's long-range field goals added insult to injury. Meanwhile, Atlanta's offense racked up yards but couldn't turn them into points, leaving them shut out 30-0, a rare and humbling result. This Week 3 clash was a full-on Falcons feast for the Panthers, except the Falcons were the ones on the menu. It was Carolina's first shutout since November 22, 2020, in a 20-0 shutout of the Lions. It was one of those games where the scoreboard told the story perfectly. Carolina set the tempo, made every play count, and the Falcons were left chasing shadows. Truly a statement win for the Panthers, and a day the Falcons will want to erase from memory. While the game was lopsided, the time of possession was nearly even. The Panthers held the ball for 31 minutes 58 seconds, while the Falcons had it for 28 minutes 02 seconds. Interestingly, Atlanta actually outgained Carolina, totaling 332 yards to the Panthers, 224, and ran more plays, 66 versus 55. The Falcons had more passing yards, 201, with Michael Penix Jr. accounting for 172, compared to Carolina's 121. On the ground, Atlanta had 131 rushing yards to Carolina's 110. However, the difference came down to turnovers. The Falcons committed 3, while the Panthers only gave up 1. Those mistakes, combined with Carolina's scoring on defense and special teams, made all the difference, turning a statistical close contest into a 30-0 blowout. Diggin. Deeper into the turnovers, one of those turnovers was a pick six, and each turnover not only stops a Falcons drive, but often gives Carolina short fields or points. This illustrates the importance of consistency and efficiency. Even if you gain more yards overall, giving up points directly, or indirectly, to the opponent can outweigh yardage. It feels like we are talking too much about a game that was lopsided, but that's the paradox of the Falcons in 2025. Coming off 2024, there was real optimism. Their offense had shown flashes of cohesion, balance, and playmaking ability, suggesting they might have found an identity. You could point to the creativity of their passing game, the ability to move the chains consistently, and a quarterback who seemed comfortable orchestrating drives. But 3 weeks into 2025, it's clear that the Falcons' identity is still elusive. Against Carolina, they gained more yards and ran more plays, which on paper looks like the offense is functioning. But when it mattered most, they faltered. Turnovers, red zone inefficiency, and missed scoring opportunities exposed the cracks. It underscores a harsh reality in the NFL. Consistency is identity. You can have yards, stats, and flashes of brilliance, but if it doesn't translate to points, wins, or momentum, your identity is just a concept, not a reality. The Falcons' offense still has potential, but games like this show they're just as inconsistent as the rest of the league. Capable of moving the ball, but not always capable of finishing drives, protecting the football, or sustaining success under pressure. It's a team at a crossroads. They can either learn from these early setbacks and solidify their approach, or continue to be a statistically impressive but inefficient offense. Let us go to Cleveland, where the Browns would host the Green Bay Packers. This matchup felt like a throwback to the classic, hard-nosed NFL of the 1970s. A low-scoring, defensive slugfest where every yard was earned, every drive had meaning, and mistakes were magnified. Both teams leaned heavily on defense, field position, and clock management, rather than explosive plays or high-flying offenses. In Cleveland, the Packers' defense and special teams controlled the key moments, but the Browns' defense kept the offense in the ballgame the entire way, allowing a field goal in the second quarter and a touchdown from Jordan Love in the third quarter. Both defenses forced the opposition into tough situations. Green Bay's defense held the Browns at bay until the final minutes, but the lack of a consistent rushing attack and late-game breakdowns turned what should have been a controlled game into a nail-biter. With 3 minutes and 38 seconds remaining, the Browns kicked a 35-yard field goal to make it 10-3. Shortly after, Grant Delpit intercepted Jordan Love and returned it inside the Packers' 5-yard line, setting up a 1-yard rush touchdown by rookie Quinshon Judkins to tie the game at 10. The Packers had a chance to win. A 43-yard attempt by kicker Brandon McManus was blocked by the Browns' special teams. Finally, Browns veteran Joe Flacco led a short drive, and rookie kicker Andre Schizmet nailed a 55-yard game-winning field goal as time expired, for a 13-10 finish. Diggin. Deeper, how did the Browns defeat the Packers, who were considered by many to be favorites to win the NFC and perhaps make the Super Bowl? First, time-consuming drives and field position battles. Both teams relied on methodical play, punting strategically, and flipping field position. Grant Delpit's interception set up the Browns' first touchdown, and the blocked field goal was a classic game-changing defensive/special teams play. There was minimal offensive fireworks. Quarterbacks managed the game rather than dominated it, as Flacco completed 21 of 36 passes for 142 yards and an interception, and Jordan Love completed 18 of 25 passes for 183 with both a touchdown and an interception. Clutch kicking, deciding the game. The final 55-yard field goal by Andre Schmidt mirrored an era when field goals were decisive in low-scoring contests. Let us head down south to Jacksonville, Florida, for an AFC South divisional showdown between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans. This was a traditional bruising defensive battle at Everbank Stadium, where the Jacksonville Jaguars outlasted the Houston Texans 17-10, powered by Travis Etienne Jr.'s decisive 10-yard touchdown run with under 2 minutes remaining. Bruising defense and a hard-nosed rushing attack, hallmarks of old-school football, defined the afternoon. Though neither team piled up huge ground numbers, the running game proved pivotal in controlling tempo and field position. Houston ran the ball 19 times for 87 yards, averaging 4.6 yards per carry, while Jacksonville countered with 24 rushes for 86 yards at 3.6 yards an attempt. The Jaguars dictated the clock, maintaining possession for 31 minutes and 18 seconds, compared to 28 minutes and 42 seconds for the Texans. That time of possession edge helped Jacksonville wear down Houston's defense late, setting the stage for Etienne's game-winning drive and sealing a hard-earned divisional victory. Trevor Lawrence led Jacksonville with 222 yards by completing 20 of 40 passing attempts with 1 interception, while C.J. Stroud threw for 204 yards by completing 25 of 38 passing attempts with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Houston's lone touchdown came on a 50-yard bomb to Nico Collins, who finished with 104 yards on 8 catches. Lawrence showed composure in crucial moments, especially on the Jaguars' final drive. With the score tied 10-10 and less than 2 minutes left, he guided a 7-play, 83-yard march, mixing quick reads and timing throws that set up Travis Etienne Jr.'s game-winning touchdown. He spread the ball among 6 receivers, keeping Houston's defense off balance just enough to prevent heavy blitzing late. His command of the no-huddle offense also helped Jacksonville control tempo and time of possession. However, Lawrence's accuracy was inconsistent, completing just 50% of his passes. His second-quarter interception near midfield killed a promising drive and gave Houston momentum that led to a field goal. Several missed reads and underthrows on intermediate routes stalled drives, contributing to Jacksonville's modest 291 total yards. While efficient in clutch moments, his overall rhythm never quite clicked against Houston's secondary. While Stroud was good and flashed his usual poise, especially early, when he hit Nico Collins on a 50-yard touchdown bomb to tie the game at 7-7 in the first half, and he consistently extended plays with his feet and made sharp short to intermediate throws that helped Houston move the chains, turnovers proved costly. Stroud's 2 interceptions, including one deep in Jaguars territory in the third quarter, erased scoring chances. His late-game decision-making faltered under pressure. Jacksonville's pass rush forced hurried throws and disrupted rhythm. Despite a decent stat line, those turnovers directly translated into lost points and shifted momentum toward the Jaguars when it mattered most. Further, the Jaguars totaled 291 yards to Houston's 271, but Jacksonville's defense forced 3 turnovers, including Tyson Campbell's interception deep in Texans territory. Defensively, Trayvon Walker and Will Anderson Jr. each recorded a sack. Linebacker Aziz Al-Shaair led all players with 8 tackles, anchoring a Jaguars defense that held Houston to 4 of 15 on third downs. Key moments included Baishul Tutin's opening touchdown for Jacksonville, Kaimi Fairbairn's 27-yard field goal before halftime, and Etienne's game-winning drive. 7 plays, 83 yards in under 2 minutes, that sealed Houston's 0-3 start. This is the type of game that we have come to expect in a tightly contested AFC South showdown. The Cincinnati Bengals traveled to Minneapolis, Minnesota, to take on the Minnesota Vikings in a matchup that featured unexpected quarterback changes for both teams. Jake Browning got the start for Cincinnati after relieving Joe Burrow in Week 2, when Burrow suffered a left toe injury that could jeopardize his season. His status remains uncertain moving forward. Meanwhile, the Vikings found themselves in a similar situation, as veteran journeyman Carson Wentz took over under center for the injured on-year starter J.J. McCarthy. McCarthy is essentially a rookie in the NFL. Both teams entered the contest hoping their backup quarterbacks could keep their respective offenses on track amid early season adversity. While we expected McCarthy to start, Wentz would shine in this game. In fact, it's hard to pick an area where the Vikings did not succeed, as the Vikings put on a clinic Sunday in a 48-10 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, showcasing how opportunistic defense, a steady ground game, and mistake-free execution can utterly topple a previously surging team. The time of possession was nearly identical, with the Vikings controlling the ball for 30 minutes and 56 seconds, and the Bengals having the ball for 29 minutes and 4 seconds. The Vikings totaled 352 yards, and the Bengals had 171. Cincinnati turned the ball over 5 times, while Minnesota committed none. For the Vikings, the rushing game was a key advantage. Minnesota rushed for 169 yards, averaged 5.5 yards per carry. But Cincinnati couldn't get anything going and totaled just 53 yards at 2.5 yards per carry. The Vikings did not have any turnovers, but the Bengals committed 5, which illustrated just how this game went all game. Let's go digging deeper into what went right for the Vikings. To begin with early strikes and turnover capitalization. Minnesota's opening drive resulted in a 12-yard touchdown pass from Carson Wentz to Josh Oliver, and shortly thereafter, cornerback Isaiah Rodgers intercepted Cincinnati and returned it 87 yards for a score, setting a tone of dominance. Running back Jordan Mason piled up 116 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, giving Minnesota sustained drives and keeping the Bengals' defense on its heels. Isaiah Rodgers forced multiple fumbles and had 2 defensive touchdowns, 1 interception return, 1 fumble return. The first player in NFL history to do so in one game. Minnesota also got a special teams boost, with a 62-yard field goal by Will Reichard, before halftime, added to the blowout nature of the day. It's fair to suggest that Rodgers was the game's turning point. His pick six early in the first quarter set a 14-0 tone that Cincinnati never recovered from. Later, his forced fumble and return extended the lead to 34-3 by halftime. Rodgers became the first player in NFL history to score 2 defensive touchdowns, an interception and a fumble recovery, and 2 forced fumbles in the same half. For the Bengals, turnovers killed momentum, as the Bengals' 5 turnovers directly led to about 31 points for Minnesota. Every time Cincinnati got a sniff of life, a turnover jolted the momentum, and the inability to get anything going on the ground with just 53 rushing yards, or 2.5 yards per carry, Cincinnati couldn't sustain drives or relieve pressure on their passing game. This was a bigger problem for backup Jake Browning, and while he displayed some good things last weekend in relief of Burrow, and even a few seasons ago when Burrow was injured, this was not one of those games. Browning completed 19 of 27 passes for 140 yards, tossing 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. His miscues were costly. Another factor problem for the Bengals Cats was with penalties. Cincinnati piled up 45 penalty yards, and while time of possession was only slightly worse, their inability to convert on third downs, 3 of 11, hampered any chance of staying in the game. The Los Angeles Rams traveled to Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to take on the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. This game was indeed a tale of 2 halves. A thrilling comeback, special teams heroics, and clutch execution late defined this one. The Rams appeared poised to take control, but the Eagles rallied from a double-digit deficit and sealed the win in spectacular fashion, 33-26. In the first half, the Rams stormed out of the gate, with Matthew Stafford connecting on a 44-yard touchdown pass to Davante Adams early in the first quarter. Los Angeles, ground game, led by Kyren Williams, added 94 rushing yards in the first half, allowing the Rams to sustain drives and maintain a 19-7 lead at halftime. Matt Gay chipped in 2 field goals, keeping the scoreboard ticking. Time of possession favored the Eagles slightly, but the Rams' early efficiency made it feel like they were in command. While the Rams did control the first half, there is a reason you play 2 halves of football. Philadelphia did what championship teams do: adjust, and serious adjustments were needed at halftime. Jalen Hurts orchestrated a methodical passing attack, spreading the ball to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Hurts' 21 completions for 226 yards and 3 touchdowns were instrumental in the comeback. Special teams played a decisive role. Jordan Davis blocked 2 Rams field goals in the fourth quarter, including a 61-yard return for a touchdown as time expired to seal the victory. It's fair to say that this victory was a team effort. Total yardage favored the Rams 356 to the Eagles 288. The rushing game for both sides was good. The Rams rushed for 160 yards. The Eagles rushed for 110. The Eagles had a bit of a better passing attack, 202 to the Rams' 196 yards, and time of possession was nearly identical, with the Eagles controlling the ball 30 minutes to 35 seconds, and the Rams with the ball 29 minutes and 25 seconds. The Rams had the game's only turnover. Regardless of the loss, the Rams looked good. They displayed a balanced offensive attack early, sustained drives, and explosive passing plays. The Eagles presented a resilient passing attack, clutch execution in the red zone, and game-changing special teams plays. The Rams failed to close out the game despite a double-digit lead. 2 blocked field goals in the final quarter, including 1 returned for a touchdown, erased their advantage. Missed opportunities on third downs and an interception in the second half shifted momentum to Philadelphia. Ultimately, This matchup highlighted the NFL maxim that yards don't always win games. Execution in critical moments, clutch passing, and special teams performance can define the outcome. The Eagles' comeback showcased resilience, while the Rams' loss emphasized the importance of finishing drives and protecting leads. The New York Jets traveled to Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. This game was a classic example of how even a late surge by one team may not overcome the sum of mistakes and missed opportunities, and how clutch execution under pressure can make all the difference. Tampa Bay survived a furious rally by New York to eke out a 29-27 win. The Bucs controlled the ball for 32 minutes and 11 seconds. The Jets possessed the ball 27 minutes and 49 minutes, and the Bucs racked up 347 total yards. The Jets racked up 267 yards. Jets' Tyrod Taylor completed 26 out of 36 passes for 197 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception with another 8 rushes for 48 yards. Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield completed 19 out of 29 passes for 233 yards, 1 touchdown, and another 44 yards on 4 rushing attempts. Tampa Bay ran for 122 yards, extending their streak of 100-yard rush games to 11. The game would go back and forth, beginning with the Jets opening with a 38-yard field goal by Nick Folk to go ahead 3-0. Buccaneers answered with a 54-yard field goal by Chase McLaughlin. Then later a short touchdown pass from Mayfield to Mike Evans to take a lead. Just before halftime, cornerback Jamel Dean intercepted Taylor and returned it 55 yards for a touchdown, giving Tampa a commanding 26 lead. However, in the fourth quarter the Jets mounted a comeback. Taylor connected with wide receiver Garrett Wilson for an 11-yard touchdown, then later found wide receiver Allen Lazard on a 4th down catch to pull within 1 point, 26-27. Tampa's McLaughlin then drilled a 55-yard field goal to restore a 13-point lead with under 6 minutes to play. Jets blocked a subsequent field goal attempt. Defensive end Will McDonald IV returned it 50 yards for a Jets touchdown with 1 minute and 49 seconds left, giving New York a 27-26 lead. But Mayfield calmly led a 48-yard drive in under 2 minutes, setting up McLaughlin's 36-yard game-winning field goal as time expired. What a finish indeed. Early on, the Jets do show an ability to score a lot of points but have yet to find a win, and Tampa Bay is a fun and exciting team. Tampa Bay controlled the game moderately, with more total yards and better possession time. Mayfield's performance was efficient. No interceptions, over 100 passer rating, and he added a big run for 33 yards in the fourth quarter to keep the game-winning drive alive. The defense produced big moments. The pick six by Dean swung the half and helped build a buffer. They kept their rushing streak alive, which helped balance the offense and keep the Jets' defense guessing. For the Jets, Tyrod Taylor and the receiving corps, especially Garrett Wilson, 10 catches for 84 yards, had solid numbers. They did not quit. Facing a large deficit, they mounted 2 long scoring drives in the fourth quarter, showing resilience. They produced a huge special teams play, a block plus return touchdown, to take the lead late. We know how the game ended, but how did it happen? Despite the strong finish, the Jets fell behind big, 26 late in the half, and gave up the pick six, which shifted momentum. Their time of possession was lower, and they gained fewer total yards, 267 versus 347. They allowed Tampa Bay to rush for 122 yards. While not huge, the Bucs' balance kept the Jets off balance. The big special teams blundered. Although they made a great play, it came after the Bucs had already regained the lead. The Jets' defense couldn't seal the game on the Bucs' final drive. Their offense did not sustain consistency. Early success faded, and they had to rely on late desperation drives. One of their problems was failure to make explosive plays until late. Close games are won in the details. The Buccaneers' ability to execute down the stretch under pressure, game-winning drive, defense, special teams, made the difference. The pick six before halftime was pivotal and gave Tampa a lead they nearly surrendered but ultimately held. Again, special teams can both win and lose games, as the Jets blocked a kick and scored, but then the Bucs blocked/converted the final kick to win. The Jets showed fight, but they couldn't finish better than just a near comeback. The Bucs just showed calm in the clutch. The Indianapolis Colts traveled to Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee, to take on the Tennessee Titans. While there were some good competitive games in Week 3, this one was not. In a dominant display from start to finish, the Colts marched into Tennessee and left with a convincing 41-20 road victory. The Titans were overwhelmed early. never fully recovered, and the game became a showcase of what the Colts are capable of when firing on all cylinders. Cam Ward completed 23 of 38 passes for 219 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, and 12 yards on 3 rushing attempts. His early interception resulted in a 32-yard pick six by the Colts on the game's 3rd play. Despite the rough start, he led a 16-play, 77-yard touchdown drive in the second half, including an 8-yard TD pass to Elik Iomanor. His completion rate and average yards per attempt were modest, averaging approximately 5.8 yards per attempt, and he was sacked multiple times, while Ward showed flashes, connecting on some significant completions, leading a touchdown drive late. But the early turnover, the pick six, and sacks hampered his performance and placed the Titans in a hole they never escaped. Daniel Jones completed 18 of 25 passes for 228 yards and 1 touchdown. The Colts held a lead for almost the entire game and dominated various phases. He managed the game efficiently, avoided turnovers, and was part of an offense that generated big plays, especially via the run by Jonathan Taylor. Jones delivered a clean, effective performance, making quality throws, supporting the run game, and avoiding major mistakes. That steadiness helped the Colts control the game and pull away, and is earning a new moniker, Indiana Jones. This game would be ideal for those that believe that momentum is everything, as an earlier defensive score swung the field position and tone in favor of Indianapolis. Every win is big, and so was this win, not just the score. It was a balanced team win as the Colts mixed running, passing, and defense seamlessly. Time of possession alone doesn't equal success, as Tennessee held the ball longer but couldn't translate that into consistent scoring or stops. Let's go diggin' deeper into the game. The Titans had the ball longer than the Colts, 31 minutes and 19 seconds to 28 minutes and 41 seconds. But the Colts had more total yardage, 365 to 282. The Titans passed for 196 yards, to rushing for 86 yards. And the Colts passed for 228 yards and ran for 137 yards. In today's NFL, being efficient and explosive often beats being merely competent. The Colts appear on the rise with a running game and offense that can truly dominate. The Titans, meanwhile, face questions about whether they can close the gap in all 3 phases. For the Titans, the game was lost in different places. For starters, the pick six on the 3rd play set a tone the Titans couldn't shake. Building from behind is tougher, especially in the division. While they dominated time of possession somewhat, the Titans averaged only 4.3 yards per play, not nearly enough to stay competitive, especially as the Colts converted explosive plays. Despite some moments, Tennessee's defense allowed the Colts to stay ahead by multiple scores and never truly threatened to overturn the lead. Coach Callahan admitted the team just didn't do anything well enough in any phase. The Las Vegas Raiders would head to the nation's capital, in a sense, to play at Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland, in a game that began with promise for the Raiders but swiftly turned into a showcase of the Commanders taking over on all 3 phases. Washington rolled to a 41-24 victory by dominating momentum, special teams, the ground game, and capitalizing when it mattered most. The Raiders won the time of possession, handling the ball for 31 minutes and 53 seconds, the Commanders at 28 minutes and 7 seconds. Washington outgained the Raiders, 400 to 354 total yards. Marcus Mariota was starting for the injured Jaden Daniels. Mariota completed 15 of 21 passes for 207 yards and 1 touchdown, and rushed for 40 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. He was sacked once for 8 yards. Mariota's overall efficiency was strong and helped the Commanders to a commanding victory. Geno Smith finished 19 completions out of 29 attempts for 289 yards and 3 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. Washington held Las Vegas to just 93 rushing yards, an average of 3.3 per carry, and forced the Raiders into multiple poor situations. The Commanders' special teams stood out as they blocked punts and recorded a massive punt return touchdown. Their special teams gained over 200 return yards and swung field position. For the Raiders, they fell behind early, surrendered explosive plays to McNichols, including a 60-yard run and a punt return for a touchdown, after which they never got back in rhythm. Their defense was outmatched on the ground, allowing the Commanders to rush 200-plus yards and convert big chunk plays, which collapsed their advantage. Despite outgaining Washington in some respects, the Raiders' special teams breakdowns, poor field position, and inability to convert momentum into sustained drives made the difference. While Washington wasn't perfect, they executed when needed, while the Raiders' mistakes and inability to stop the bleeding early doomed them. They dominated in the trenches and with the run game, sustained drives, and delivered explosive scores on special teams. Mariota managed the game effectively, avoided turnovers, and the defense pressured Geno Smith while the special teams set the table. The Raiders did have bright spots on the offense, as Geno Smith connected 3 times for touchdowns, and Trey Tucker had a breakout performance with 8 catches, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The Los Angeles Chargers took on the Denver Broncos at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, California, in an AFC West showdown. The Los Angeles Chargers held off the Denver Broncos in a tense AFC West clash, prevailing 23-20 after a dramatic finish that showcased the fine line between victory and defeat in division play. From start to finish, the game was competitive, with momentum swinging multiple times before Justin Herbert led a clutch final drive that sealed the win. The big win was filled with momentum shifts, including big plays such as Sutton's 52-yard touchdown, and Dobbins' long run gave the Broncos leads and control for stretches of the game. Late in the fourth quarter, penalties and missed opportunities allowed the Chargers to regain momentum and complete their comeback. Herbert's calm under pressure and the offensive line's protection on the final drive exemplified why execution in crunch time is key in the NFL. This game featured a great quarterback matchup, and the 2 stars showed out. Justin Herbert had 28 completions on 47 attempts, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. He engineered the game-tying drive and facilitated the field goal winning drive with poise. Bo Nix had 14 completions on 25 attempts, 153 yards, and a touchdown. He made big plays throughout but couldn't close out the victory. The Chargers had 376 total yards, and the Broncos accounted for 265 total yards. The Chargers nearly doubled up the Broncos in terms of time of possession. The Chargers 36 minutes and 20 seconds. The Broncos 23 minutes and 40 seconds. The Chargers had 29 first downs to the Broncos 9, and this goes hand in hand with third down efficiency. The Chargers were 8 for 17 on third down, but the Broncos were only 2 for 13, measurements that reveal how the Chargers were able to sneak away with the victory. Denver built leads and showed big play capability, but the Broncos faltered in critical moments. Penalties, stalled drives, and missed opportunities allowed Los Angeles to seize the late-game momentum. The Chargers' victory illustrates that control of the clock and execution in critical moments often outweigh yardage totals or early dominance. For the Chargers, the win reinforced their resilience and clutch ability. For the Broncos, it was a hard lesson in finishing games, demonstrating that even when you lead, the NFL rewards precision and poise in the final minutes. The New Orleans Saints would go marching into Seattle's Lume Field to take on the Seattle Seahawks. What began as a tightly scheduled trip for the Saints quickly morphed into one of the most one-sided affairs of the early 2025 NFL schedule. The Seahawks overwhelmed the Saints 44-13, a blowout broadcasted in full view of division and league-wide observers, by dominating all 3 phases: special teams, offense, and defense. For New Orleans, it was a humbling road defeat that exposed fractures across their roster. From the opening play, Seattle applied pressure. New Orleans' first drive stalled, and when the Saints went 3 and out and lined up to punt on their second series, the tide of the game changed in a heartbeat. Rookie Torrey Horton took a punt back 95 yards for a touchdown, the longest punt return score in Seahawks franchise history. Moments later, with the Saints reeling, Seattle's momentum grew. A blocked Saints punt by DeAnthony Bell set up yet another rapid score. By the end of the first quarter, Seattle had built a 21-0 lead. The special teams' breakout plays pushed the Seahawks ahead before the Saints' offense could even find its rhythm. The scoreboard told an early tale of damage control for the visitors. By halftime, Seattle had expanded their lead to 38-6, reflecting not only those momentum-shifting special teams plays, but also a defense that suffocated the Saints' offense and made drive after drive look labored. In the second half, with starters easing off and backups receiving meaningful time, the final 44-13 score locked in for Seattle. While the game was never in doubt, let's go diggin'. Deeper Seahawks totaled 320 yards to the Saints' 284 yards. But the Saints had the ball more, in terms of time of possession, at 32 minutes and 15 seconds. Seattle at 27 minutes and 45 seconds. Saints' Spencer Rattler finished 28 completions on 39 attempts for 218 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Seattle's Sam Darnold went 14 completions for 18 attempts for 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no sacks or turnovers. a near flawless performance. The Saints managed only 79 rushing yards. The Seahawks, while not explosive on the ground, piled up 87 yards at 2.6 yards per carry. Didn't need to manufacture the run when special teams and defense were producing points. New Orleans committed 11 penalties for 77 yards, turned the ball over on downs early, and allowed 2 return touchdowns in short order. Horton's 95-yard punt return and the blocked Saints punt gave the offense short fields and early scores. Despite fewer possessions, Darnold's clean game and willingness to strike downfield kept pressure on the Saints and prevented them from mounting a comeback. The score was ugly, but the Saints did have opportunities, but they did not capitalize on them. This inability to execute was fueled by turnovers and special teams breakdowns, which led to ineffective third down and red zone performance. While Rattler's numbers weren't terrible, the timing of Seattle's scores made their efforts feel reactive rather than competitive. At 2-1, Seattle moves forward with confidence, having snapped a frustrating home-losing trend and done so in convincing fashion. For the Saints, the 0-3 start is a stark reminder that talent alone doesn't equal wins. Discipline, synchronization, and execution fill that gap. The score will draw asterisks in the standings, but its implications run deeper. Seattle found rhythm and dominance. New Orleans uncovered cracks that will require repair. The Arizona Cardinals traveled west to Levi's Stadium to face their division rivals, the San Francisco 49ers, in a game that promised drama and delivered exactly that. In a contest defined by razor-thin margins, timely execution, and a clutch finish, the 49ers narrowly defeated the Cardinals 16-15, improving to 3-0, while Arizona fell to 2-1 after a frustrating road loss. This NFC West showdown was a test of composure, resilience, and situational football. From the opening kickoff, it was clear that neither team would surrender the initiative easily. Both squads had entered the contest undefeated, and early season momentum added urgency to every snap. The game was competitive throughout, so what did each team do, right? The 49ers made the plays at the right time. Piñeiro's field goals, Jones' final drive, Pearsall's explosive catches. Arizona's offense had opportunities, but the 49ers stifled drives when needed and avoided collapse despite losing pass rusher Nick Bosa early. Every time offense faltered, they had a leg who delivered. For the Cardinals, their defense played well. Arizona kept the game within 1 point and had the ball more, but the offense's inability to finish hurt them. The injury to Conner in the third quarter was a turning point. His presence being removed shifted the dynamic of Arizona's offense. They held time of possession, but failed on red zone conversions and big plays when it mattered most. The late-game drive by San Francisco sealed their fate. Neither team ever truly blew the other away, and the lead changed hands. Momentum teetered, and it came down to the final seconds. What swung the game, though, were these moments. Arizona's missed opportunity to build a cushion. The offense had drives, but settled for field goals. San Francisco forcing the issue at key junctures. Chunk plays by Pearsall, the touchdown to the Juice, Jed Juszczyk, and the field goals. The injury to Conner undermining Arizona's offensive balance and taking away a rhythm they had counted on. San Francisco's special teams and clutch kicking gave them the difference despite possessing the ball less. This matchup illustrated perhaps the most enduring truth of football. Close games are not won by who holds the ball more, but by who executes when the margin is thinnest. The 49ers proved that you don't need dominance in yardage alone if you make the plays. In key downs, in special teams, and in clutch time. The Cardinals, despite holding the ball more and playing hard, found that good defense plus possession does not guarantee victory if your offense can't finish. For San Francisco, this win reinforced resilience. Integrating rookie talent, navigating injuries, and closing a road division game by a point shows confidence. For Arizona, this loss serves as a warning. Talent and time of possession matter little without finishing drives, sustaining the run game, and avoiding the key mistakes. As the season moves forward, the 49ers head home as division leaders and unbeaten. The Cardinals must regroup quickly, refocus on balance, and heal from critical injury blow. The scoreboard says 16-15, but the game's lesson goes far deeper. America's team, as they are dubbed, the Dallas Cowboys, traveled to Chicago to play the Chicago Bears, and in a contest that looked competitive on paper quickly turned into a one-sided affair. The Bears rode big plays and Dallas mistakes to a commanding 31-14 win. The Cowboys moved the ball, but the Bears made the plays that mattered. The game quickly turned against Dallas early on. On just the third play from scrimmage, Chicago quarterback Caleb Williams connected on a 35-yard touchdown pass to Rome Odunze, giving the Bears an immediate lead. A few minutes later, a 65-yard flea flicker touchdown to Luther Burden III pushed the lead further, forcing Dallas to play catch-up almost immediately. Even though Dallas outgained the Bears in total yardage and held the ball longer, these early explosive plays and turnovers created a momentum shift that Dallas never recovered from. Essentially, the Cowboys were reacting from the start, and the Bears controlled the game from the outset. Both teams were able to pile up yardage, and the Cowboys outgained the Bears 396 total yards to 385 total yards. Dallas had the edge from the ground game. The Cowboys had 121 yards on 20 attempts, as the Bears had 87 yards on 29 attempts. But the Bears threw for nearly 300 yards, 298, through the air. But Dallas was not far behind at 275. Dallas controlled the ball 32 minutes and 58 seconds, and the Bears held the ball 27 minutes and 2 seconds. Chicago was 8 of 14 on third downs, but Dallas was only 3 of 11, and while Chicago committed no turnovers, Dallas committed 4. Williams had deep strikes, 35 and 65 yards, and consistent connection with multiple receivers gave Chicago the explosive edge, and combined with the Cowboys, 4 giveaways handed Chicago momentum and short fields. The game was lost on 4 turnovers that turned promising drives into wasted opportunities and gifted points to Chicago's offense. The flea flicker touchdown and other explosive passes quickly turned games of manageable deficits into larger ones. Again, while Dallas controlled possession, they failed to convert when it mattered most. Chicago answered every threat. This game showed that Dallas has the talent to move the ball, but needs cleaner execution, better turnover management, and tighter defense on big plays. Without addressing these, yardage and possession advantages alone won't translate into wins. For Chicago, the performance marks a statement game under new direction. For Dallas, it suggests underlying issues that yardage alone can't hide. Sunday Night Football from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, featuring the visiting Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Giants. While it's only Week 3, the matchup featured a battle of winless teams, so the Chiefs came into East Rutherford with something to prove, and walked away with a methodical 22-9 victory. What looked early like a tight contest turned into a display of defensive discipline and opportunistic offense for Kansas City, while the Giants once again struggled to finish drives and convert in key moments. The game started out well for the Chiefs as they opened the scoring with a 54-yard field goal by Harrison Butker in the first quarter after a 12-play, 36-yard drive. In the second quarter, Butker added a 48-yard field goal after a 9-play, 51-yard drive to make it 6-0. The Giants responded with a drive culminating in a 13-yard touchdown run by rookie Cam Scatabo with 1 minute and 44 seconds left in the half. The extra point was blocked, leaving the game tied 6-6. Special teams, like penalties, are not emphasized enough until you are on the wrong end. Just before halftime, Kansas City marched 69 yards on 7 plays, and Butker drilled a 28-yard field goal to send KC into the locker room up 9-6. The Chiefs struck early in the third quarter. A sustained 11-play, 74-yard drive ended with a 5-yard TD pass from Patrick Mahomes to Tyquan Thornton. That made it 16-6. The last drive of the first half and early in the third showed the quick strike ability of the Chiefs. But thus far, we have yet to see the magic of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But we know it's there, somewhere. In the fourth quarter, the Giants narrowed the gap with a 25-yard field goal by Graham Gano, making it 16-9. But Kansas City put the game away on a 9-play, 77-yard drive, culminating in a 1-yard run by Kareem Hunt, making the final 22-9. Another extra point failed. Let us go digging deeper into the game. You can get a good idea of what happened by a few key plays and the final score, but they do not tell the full tale. While the score was not that competitive, all the statistics were. For example, the Chiefs outgained the Giants by 25 yards. 306-281. The Giants' ground game outgained the Chiefs, 130-102. But the Chiefs had 201 passing yards to the Giants, 151. The Chiefs controlled the clock for 31 minutes and 50 seconds, as the Giants had the ball for 28 minutes and 10 seconds. One key aspect of the game that cannot be emphasized enough is the Giants only converted 1 of 10 third down attempts. Further, while the Chiefs did not turn over the ball, the Giants threw 2 interceptions. The Chiefs' defense tightened when it counted. New York was 1 for 10 on third down, repeatedly stalling their drives. Mahomes converted key situations, including his 33-yard throw to Thornton on a 3rd and 10 setup, the go-ahead touchdown in the third quarter. Again, special teams is crucial, and the Chiefs illustrated this on Sunday night. Overall, they played a cleaner game, avoiding turnovers, which, especially at a low-scoring fight, proved critical. The Giants' passing game collapsed, as Russell Wilson completed 18 of 32 passes for just 160 yards and 2 interceptions. Again, third down efficiency was almost non-existent, 1 for 10, which means you're not staying on the field, not maintaining momentum. Despite decent total yardage and a respectable rushing showing, they couldn't convert in the red zone or sustain drives when it mattered. Where the Chiefs did have successful special teams, the Giants did not, including the blocked extra point after their touchdown, cost them the lead and changed momentum. The Chiefs' timely execution in the third and fourth quarters, without turning the ball over, allowed them to control the outcome despite neither team dominating utterly. This game highlighted the classic football maxim: defense plus situational execution plus turnover avoidance results in a win. The Giants moved the ball moderately well but failed where it counts: on third downs, in the red zone, and in protecting the football. The Chiefs, meanwhile, leaned on their experience, stellar situational defense, and timely offense to claw out their first win of the season. For the Chiefs, it was a reminder that even when their offense isn't firing on all cylinders, they can rely on fundamentals and win ugly. For the Giants, it underscored how yardage alone doesn't win games. You must finish drives, convert third downs, and protect the ball. In short, yards are nice, wins are made in the details. The third installment of Monday Night Football in 2025. For Week 3 of the 2025 NFL season, kicked off September 22nd and saw the Detroit Lions visiting the Baltimore Ravens. When the lights came on at M&T Bank Stadium for Monday Night Football, there was no shortage of expectation. Two teams with serious ambitions, both looking to stake early claims in 2025. What unfolded, however, was a road team statement. The Lions seized control, and the Ravens found themselves chasing for most of the night, finishing the game off with a victory, 38-30. Honestly, from kickoff the energy felt thick. The Ravens faithful expecting dominance at home, the Lions in underdog mode but confident after a strong start to the season. The opening drive set the tone. Detroit marched with purpose, Baltimore responded, and the pace never slackened. You could sense the physicality early, especially when Detroit's offensive line began to impose its will, and the Ravens' defensive rhythm started to crack. By the third quarter, what had looked like a tightly matched showdown began tipping. Detroit's rushing attack consistently forced Baltimore's front to tilt backwards. Meanwhile, every time the Ravens threatened momentum, the Lions answered. The crowd eventually felt less like the home faithful cheering a controlled sortie, and more like witnesses to Detroit's rising wave. On paper, the 8-point margin might suggest a tight game. But watching it, the Lions were firmly in control for large swaths. The Ravens had their moments. Jackson connected for 288 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Jackson produced strong statistical numbers in the passing game, but his impact was limited by constant pressure and a lack of rushing effectiveness. The sacks and disrupted rhythm kept him from controlling the game the way he often can. Jared Goff completed 20 of 28 passes for 202 yards and 1 touchdown, with 0 interceptions. Goff was not sacked at all, and was hit only a few times. His offensive line gave him cleanish pockets. In short, Goff had a very solid night, did what he needed to do, avoided turnovers, kept drives alive, and let the run game carry much of the load. Detroit ground game exploded. David Montgomery ran for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 72-yard burst that swung momentum in the third quarter. The Lions possessed the ball 33 minutes and 18 seconds. The Ravens had it 26 minutes and 42 seconds. On defense, the Lions sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times, tying a career high for sacks allowed. The late-game dagger. Trailing 28-24 with under 2 minutes left, Detroit converted a bold 4th and 2 at its own 49-yard line, with a 20-yard pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then Montgomery ran in a 31-yard touchdown on the next play to make it 37-24. Dan Campbell is not only a great coach, but he's probably the most gutsy coach in the NFL. This is one reason why the Lions love this guy. He truly believes in his players, and they love the opportunity to get it done. A costly fumble by the Ravens, Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter turned the tide. While the game did appear close, the Lions dominated key facets, The run game as they racked up 224 yards on the ground, the line of scrimmage, and momentum in the most crucial moments. Like Miami in the opener on Thursday night, the game was kept close. The Ravens kept it within striking distance into the fourth quarter, but Detroit's superiority in the trenches and their ability to execute when it mattered meant the outcome was never truly in doubt once the Lions asserted themselves. Watching this game in Week 3, it felt like a coming-out party of sorts for the Lions under the Monday night lights. They showed they can handle a physical battle, withstand an opponent's fight back, and finish with authority. For Baltimore, it was the kind of loss that raises more questions than answers. Can the run defense be trusted? Will the line get the quarterback the protection he needs? For the viewer, it delivered everything you hope for in a primetime showdown. High stakes, big plays, momentum swings, and an ending that felt earned rather than fluky. The Lions couldn't just win, they own it now. On that note, let's call it a night. Week 3 of the 2025 NFL season featured many close games, with 8 games within one score in the fourth quarter, and 7 games were decided by 8 points or fewer. This week featured some close nail-biters, even if the reasons were hard to understand. But not every game was tight. For instance, the Seattle Seahawks routed the New Orleans Saints 44-13 in a lopsided affair, showing that while many games were close, some were decidedly one-sided. That mixture of nail-biters and routes adds texture. The league had both unpredictable tight contests and dominant showings. From standout quarterback performances to clutch defensive stops and game-changing plays, at Diggin Deeper, we strive to capture every moment and bring it straight to you, the fans, so no defining play goes unnoticed. From all of us here, thank you for joining me for another broadcast of Diggin Deeper into the NFL. I am Brian Parsons, your humble host, wishing you all the best. Stay safe, enjoy the games ahead, and God bless.